Today, I'm going to talk about the Brooks Catamount after 100 miles. 10.28 miles, 8 minutes, 39 seconds per mile, 141 beats per minute today. Going for a mostly easy run today out there on the lakefront path. Not a ton of trail to test out this trail shoe, but with today's miles, I was able to get the Brooks Catamount to the 100 mile point. And before I tell you about how I felt like this shoe did over those last 100 miles, I do want to go over some disclosures. This is a pair of shoes that was sent to me for the purpose of review by Running Warehouse. However, nobody is paying me to make this video or to use this shoe, and no one's going to get a chance to preview any of my footage or my thoughts before you guys get a chance to see this video on YouTube. So with the disclosures out of the way, let's talk about the Brooks Catamount. We've got 32 millimeters of stack height in the heel with a 6 millimeter drop, giving us 26 millimeters of that beautiful ice blue DNA Flash midsole foam. There's a thermoplastic EVA rock plate right in between the midsole and the outsole here to protect you from anything poking through. And you've got trail tack rubber outsole, which is nice and grippy, almost borderline kind of like feels sharp and very harsh to me in terms of being able to get some grip. Up top, we've got an open mesh design in a bold color choice of white for a trail shoe. It's a very breathable material, very comfortable material. I went with a size 9, fits perfectly. Everything about the shoe in the upper just feels great in terms of wearing it. A very minimal amount of padding in the tongue and the heel collar, but this shoe still manages to be a very comfortable shoe without having puffiness. This is the exact kind of thing that I'm talking about when I see a really puffy shoe, and I keep thinking it doesn't have to be so puffy, it doesn't have to have so much weight to be comfortable. This is an example of a shoe that's very comfortable without having a lot of extra puffiness weight. I think they've done a fantastic job with that. To protect you from some of the elements, there is a TPU overlay that goes over the sides and in the back and front of the shoe that does a really good job at keeping out moisture and snow. But if any of that stuff does get in, there are slits cut through that TPU overlay, which allow for water to drain out. All this comes in at a total weight of 9.5 ounces for my men's US size 9. So what has it been like to run on the Brooks Catamount for the last 100 miles? The main feature for me is the ample amount of DNA Flash midsole foam. It's a midsole foam that I've loved in the Hyperion Tempo, in the Hyperion Elite 2, and I'm really enjoying it in the Brooks Catamount as well. The one caveat that I will say with this shoe is that because of the stiffness and the kind of ruggedness of this trail tack rubber outsole, it's a little bit of a firmer rubber composition, and what it does is it seems to kind of mute the DNA Flash midsole. Now, DNA Flash is a nitrogen-based foam, so it's a little bit different than a traditional EVA type of midsole foam. And what I find with the way that Brooks does this nitro foam is that at slower speeds, it's just not as interesting to run it. It actually feels a little bit firm, but the faster that you start to run in DNA Flash, the more that you're pushing into it, the more that that midsole foam kind of comes to life and gives you some shock absorption and also gives you a little bit of springiness with each step. That still happens with this shoe, but that trail tack outsole I think kind of mutes it a little bit, takes a little bit of the top end off of it, so it's not quite as exciting when you're trying to get up to faster speeds in the shoe. But on the other hand, I'm not feeling quite as much of that like difference between how good the shoe can feel and how bad the shoe can feel. So it's kind of giving me more of that middle range of the pleasantness of DNA Flash midsole foam. But that's not to say that this is a fantastic, like, easy day and slow pace shoe either. It wouldn't be my first choice for just kind of like an easy day run, which is what I've been doing with this shoe for the last 2 days. It's been okay, but probably not the first thing that I would reach for because I just don't think that this is a commuter trail shoe or that crossover trail shoe that can handle a lot of like running along pavement or cement surfaces to the trail and then getting to the trail and then kind of running home. This doesn't really like being on on pavement at all. I like it on everything except pavement. If you can get on some sort of grassy surface, dirt road surface, even if it's frozen very hard, it's like some of the sand and snow that I was out there on today, it feels just so much better. I feel like then when you have that little bit of extra softness from that material, even if it's frozen solid, that's just enough of a difference in terms of how this feels underfoot to really make it feel like that's what this shoe is intended for. So if I'm going to be doing a lot of running on pavement and trail, probably would look for something that's more in that crossover trail variety. But if I know I'm going to be spending my entire time on dirt roads, rocky surfaces, grass, trail, that kind of thing, then this is certainly a shoe that's going to be very fun to run in, especially when you're picking up the pace. Because for a trail shoe, I do feel like it's pretty light, not the lightest on the scale, but feels very comfortable around the foot, feels very nimble. I don't feel like there's a lot of extra stuff that might actually accidentally catch on something that I'm not intending. Back when we were in Iowa at my in-laws, I was able to put this on a bunch of dirt roads, on a bunch of trails, get it through a ton of snow. That was the main kind of harsh condition that I was able to get this shoe in, and the shoe does fantastic there. I was really nervous that with this somewhat low cut of an ankle that's back here, that when I got into deeper snow that just moisture would get in, and with the breathable upper up top, no water resistant treatment, that this shoe would just get really soaked and really wet in some wintry conditions. But it actually did a really fantastic job. This TPU overlay that's over here, I think is doing a really good job of keeping any extra moisture from getting into the shoe, and keeps your foot relatively dry and warm. So I was surprised at how well this shoe did, even in kind of inclement weather, because just from the looks of the shoe with the white design, it just didn't look like a shoe that was going to really like bad weather. But even in some of the bad weather that I've had in this shoe, it did a fantastic job, especially when it comes to grip with this Trail Tack outsole. Now the lugs aren't particularly deep on this shoe, which I find a little bit surprising given how kind of rugged that they are. The angles are very sharp and the rubber seems very stiff, which to me makes them feel a little bit more like kind of worn down soccer cleats. Really able to get a lot of grip in there. I feel like if they were a little bit deeper of a lug, then you'd be able to get even more grip, and I feel like that was kind of like an intense trail shoe. But with them kind of shaved down like the way that they are here, it makes it so that's a little bit more runnable on a day-to-day basis on the trails. That being said, I do feel like there is quite a bit of stiffness that does come through in terms of the outsole rubber that's on here. It's not going to be a very soft compound. When you're running on it, you're going to be looking for something softer to run on, so it gives that Trail Tack outsole something to really grab into. For me over here in Chicago, that's mean finding those little bits of dirt or snow that I can run in, that I can step on instead of the paved trail whenever that is an option for me. In terms of the overall wear and tear on this shoe for the last 100 miles, it's been an extremely consistent ride. The feeling that I got in this shoe right out of the box is the feeling that I've had even up to this last run at 100 miles in the shoe. The DNA Flash foam, I feel like, is the type of foam that can just last forever. I feel like you're going to get a ton of miles out of this. There's very little wear that I'm seeing in the outsole rubber. I could tell a little bit if I look very closely at the normal spot that I see kind of the most wear, and then the other spot that I see a lot of wear generally in most of my shoes, I'm seeing a very small amount. Not even really sure how much wear there is there. So even though the angles here are very sharp and I was expecting to see quite a bit of wear because of that kind of harshness of angles, not seeing very much wear at all. It's a little bit dirty. The upper is a little bit discolored. That's about it. But everything is holding up much better than I thought it would. The outsole is doing fantastic. The upper, I just thought it'd be kind of like a weird dull yellow from all the dust from all the dirt roads that I ran in this shoe in, but it's still looking pretty nice. The only place that I'm really seeing any discoloration is kind of in the slits. That's where you can really tell a difference in terms of what the color is, and then around the heel collar where my black socks were kind of rubbing against the shoe. A couple of stains are starting to develop here, but even though I've really put the shoe through its paces, it's holding up really well. So those are my thoughts on the Brooks Catamount after 100 miles. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions, or better yet, feel free to stop by the live stream that I do just about every day on YouTube, 3 p.m. Central Time. Hopefully I'll see you guys there. That's all I have for today, everybody. Thanks so much for making it all the way to the end of the video. Hopefully you're staying safe out there on your runs, and I'll see you in the next one.
Yo, what's going on?